Good morning. Welcome to another day of Define My Day in quarantine. It's quarantine day again. Um, yeah, so we're stuck here as normal. Not stuck talking to you, but stuck in this room. um, but yeah, we're making do. We're making do. We had a really good discussion yesterday. If you haven't seen it, the discussion about time blocking, and got a lot of good feedback from it through actually even that was our first live YouTube video yesterday, and we got some good feedback on that video too. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we even had some feedback in here, like Sharon mentions that in yesterday's video, she's been time blocking for a week and it's made a huge positive difference during this quarantine. I was not using my time wisely. Now I do much better. That's awesome. Awesome. Now, I've had the same experience. The key is to continue doing it because we do what works until it works. And then we go, oh, it's all fixed. And then we let it go on that slow decline back down to where we started. So we want to be aware of that. And that's one of the key advantages of journaling. That's why we constantly watch our progress so that we can see when we go up, when we go down, even if it takes a little time to observe those results, because it might take, like it might take time. Like we might might not be able to see results in a week. We might not see results in a month, but we can look back, at the beginning of a Define My Day book and say, okay, I'm a lot different than when I wrote that down. Like now I see the difference. And it can go the other way too, that when we stop doing the habits and then we wake up one day and we go, wow, how did I get back here? Right? So you want to constantly make sure you're taking those intentional actions of progress and health every day. And you want to try to measure it as best you can. Um, Good morning, everybody. I want to go back into, and very much thank you to Angel for pointing this out yesterday. Everybody that comments in the user group, if you're watching this in the user group, shows up as unknown. So if I can't say hi to you by name, that's why. It's nice because it offers the people in the user group a little bit of privacy, where if you're commenting on the public video, your name would show up. But if we're in the user group, it's fine with me if you're in the user group and commenting. I'm happy to have you. Just know that I don't know exactly who I'm talking to at the moment. So it just shows up as unknown. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, Angel. Angel is not in the user group commenting from the public. And thank you again if you missed it. Thank you again for pointing out this whole thing with the unknown versus seeing the name, because that might have taken me a little while to figure out. So I appreciate that observation. So yeah, we're trucking along here, going through it. Kimberly says, yes, these planners are the best. I love it. They're the best. You're right. You are absolutely right. I give these to my team and it's helping them a lot. That's awesome, Kimberly. Thank you very much for sharing it. I will enthusiastically leave that on the screen for a moment. So yeah, so I couldn't agree more with you. I couldn't agree more with you. And I'm glad everybody's finding a way through it. Finding a good use for the Define My Day planner as we're going through this process and through this, this whole crisis. Really, I mean, it's up and down, and I feel like it gives me and my family, Lynn especially, who's been doubling down on using hers, like it helps us with some stability through this thing. It's like that thread that keeps us like grounded through this entire process. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Good morning, Sharon. Good morning, Carrie. You caught us. That's awesome. Good. I'm glad you were catching us live too. So I don't have a meme for today, but I do have some photos from yesterday. Some weird things going on during the coronavirus. Number one, Chevy Camaros are ridiculously marked up right now. So this is an ad that popped up on my Facebook feed, and I thought like the ad showed like Chevy Camaro, $115,000. I was like, wow, what kind of special Camaro is this? And if you go onto the website of this dealership in the Pittsburgh area, MSRP is $30,500 basically, and they're offering it for $115,622. That is an incredible markup on a base Chevy Camaro. I like oil prices are negative and Chevy Camaros are through the roof, apparently. Now, look, I know like it's a pricing error. There were actually all of their Camaros, like their $50,000 Camaro was like 130,000 or something like that. So I'm sure somebody put in a wrong number, and there's probably nobody working at the dealership right now. So I understand that that's going on, but it was just funny. It's like all the little things that might blip up that you catch as like mistakes. Like if somebody just does something and then walks away because they're worried about the Rona, it gets out there and they're paying for that ad. Now, just to make sure we're clear, I am not shopping for a Camaro right now. I'm not shopping for a new car. It just happened to pop up. I don't know why that would pop up for me. I read a lot of car magazines, so I'm thinking that that's how I got identified. And I'm actually getting a lot of weird advertising now. I don't know if it's like people just trying to broaden their base or whatever, but I'm getting ads for things that I would never buy. I don't know. I don't know how it's happening, but it makes me wonder about the efficiency of advertising right now. Good morning, Deborah. Thanks for joining us. The other thing that was yesterday freaking hilarious was at dinner. This is my 6-year-old. When he found out what breastfeeding was, he couldn't hear it. I don't know how we got on the topic. I have no idea. But, like my older son knows it. He actually saw my younger son breastfeeding. So he kind of was introduced to it at like 4 years old. But this one had no idea. Had no idea. And so my wife at dinner, she's telling him like technically what it is and why it's important for the baby. And he could not hear anymore. He was losing his mind. It was freaking him the heck out. So I thought it was hilarious. I had to snap a photo of him going through this. It was freaking hilarious. So yeah, just yeah. I don't know, he's mind blown. Good morning, Jenny. Good morning, Anna. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go into our inspirational books here. So this is the Do One Thing Every Day That Inspires You. And we're going to figure out what's going to inspire us today. This quote is from Ben Jonson. A rhymer and a poet are two things. And the prompt for today is create a love poem from the rhyme. Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. So, so create a love poem today. Preferably with define my day in the poem. I'll tell you what, why don't we do that? If somebody comes up with a good roses are red, violets are blue, define my day poem, we'll send you a free define my day. Any color you want. Ooh, maybe we should make it red. Yeah. So come up with a good rhyme, a good poem in the comments, and we will pick a winner and send a free Define My Day book to whoever that winner is. Good morning, Susie. Thanks for joining me. You got a couple people on YouTube watching us live. That's awesome. That's pretty good. I've been working on that YouTube channel lately. It's not easy. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to post videos and whatever happens, happens. It's been working out so far. All right. So we touched a little bit yesterday about the stress of kids' Zoom calls. And I actually read an article yesterday about this too, that parents are finding it utterly overwhelming to deal with the stuff that they have to do, especially if you're a work from home parent at the moment that doesn't normally work from home. Not only do you have to take care of your kids, but now you're also responsible for facilitating their learning while also trying to deal with work. And if you have a boss that's kind of a jerk, they might be a little unforgiving about that work too. So, it's not only are you working from home, and that's probably bleeding into your personal life. It's hard to concentrate. It's hard to segment things. Like when you're in an office, your kids aren't knocking on your door. I've experienced that. But you're also tempted to like kind of let it bleed into personal life. Feel like you're checking email while you're sitting on the couch or stuff. So it's very hard to manage. And then you add on top of that you're dealing with a child that's, maybe doesn't understand exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They need help. They need some feedback. It's a lot of work. So people are overwhelmed by that, plus the fact that there's a freaking pandemic going on, right? There's a lot of things people are worried about: money, health, all of this stuff. So there's a lot going on. So if you're one of those people that has that going on, just understand it, give yourself some grace, and you may have to even demand that grace from the people around you. Like, you might have to be real with your boss, and hopefully your boss is open to you being real with them. But like, you know what? I got a lot going on right now, right? So, and maybe you're worried about losing your job, which maybe you can't say something then. I don't know. But if you are a supervisor or a business owner, I would implore you to give people a little bit of a break. Everybody's struggling through this. And nobody wants to lose their business. Nobody wants to lose their job. It's a good time to try to be creative in figuring this stuff out. Good morning. You're glad I can't see you like Zooming? Yeah, I think, it's funny. I think a lot of people feel that way. We had a meme up last week with like a little monkey all messed up like 20 minutes before Zooming. Good morning, Angela. Yeah, you guys, you know what? You guys actually, I might not take a shower until 1 in the afternoon if I didn't have to do these Zoom videos. So, or these videos. So I'm glad you guys give me some motivation to make sure I get up and get in the shower. So the segmenting, right? So the going back to the Zoom thing and people being overwhelmed. That's one of the very nice benefits of time blocking, is that if you have like that issue where you got to take care of things around the house. You probably have to do laundry, feed the kids, everything else. You might have other responsibilities you have to worry about. You might have elderly parents you have to deal with. You're trying to pay the bills. You're trying to work. You're trying to take care of the kids. By outlining that, by blocking that out with a time block strategy, it helps you, one, forgive yourself as you become aware of all of the things you need to do, but also set the proper expectations. And when you have other people you're talking to, even a 6-year-old, you can tell that 6-year-old, like we do with ours, I'm going to be in my office from 10 until probably 11 o'clock doing this video. Don't knock on my door unless it's an emergency. Do what you can. And at 11 o'clock, I will be out of my office and I will answer any questions you have, right? And then we go similarly through the day. 12 o'clock, we will eat lunch. And as long as you stick to that schedule, set the proper expectations, and then follow through, things work out. Like, everybody gets used to that structure and things work out. But if you say, at 12 o'clock, we're going to eat lunch, and then you don't show up for 12 o'clock, and then the kid's not really sure, or even like if you have a spouse, the spouse isn't sure, like, so, like, am I going to fend for myself? Am I going to wait? What's going on? So if you can try to be as structured as possible, expectations, including your own, are set properly, and things just kind of flow better. But again, with time blocking, you also can see that, like, I'm putting too much on my plate. I need to better manage this by taking things off of my plate, maybe giving somebody else something to do, or just saying, I can't do it, right? So, like, allow yourself some space. All right, so we got one person. I'm going to have to check the user group. Roses are red, violets are blue. Define my day as the best to move forward with you. Ooh, very good, very good. Good morning, a little bit late. That's okay, Amy. We'll still take you. Angel says, it's incredibly stressful even when your boss is a bit forgiving, especially when you are the only employee of the company trying to balance work and your child's education. Yeah, I know. Some people have the advantage of being able to focus on what they need to focus on and not have the extraneous things. And, you're aware of it. So I think that's like that's the start, right? Like, you're becoming aware of it and identifying it, acknowledging it, and then just knowing you do what you can do, right? Now, if you're feeling guilty, if you're feeling like you're not doing enough, you have to evaluate that. Is it true? Is it a story you're telling yourself? Are you just not doing what you would like to be doing. So there's all, you have to think through the whole thing. But I think the more you're aware of it, the more you can evaluate that situation and set proper expectations for everybody around you. But I know it can be frustrating, and I think a lot of people, you can get resentful because other people are like breezing through it because they have fewer responsibilities, and then some of us are, have a million responsibilities, and we're trying to hold a million things up as we're going through this. And I think the best way that I can immediately think about that is that everybody has their time, right? And so if you're being tested right now, do your best to get through it, and then realize that eventually something is going to happen for you later on, and you'll have somebody else going through that. Like somebody else right now that might have an easy time is probably going to have a harder time later on in another completely unrelated scenario. Like it doesn't, not, there's very few people that just breeze through life, right? We all have hard moments, and yours might be now, somebody else's might be later. And I think, one of the things that we can take into consideration there is like, if you know somebody around you is having a hard time, offer to help, because eventually you might have a hard time and you might need some help, and you're going to be hoping somebody can help you out. Or maybe you can look back on the past where you have been helped, and you can say, you know what, I got help then, so maybe now it's my turn to offer help. So, and I think that's the kind of relationship, while it's transactional in a way, or actually is transactional, it's still, it's what inspires us to help each other out. Is that like we know we can identify needing help, and then when we don't need help and somebody else does, we can identify that and say, you know what, that made me feel good at the time. Now I'm going to try to do something to make this person feel good, or help this person out, or relieve a little bit of stress. So, Angel, hopefully somebody in your life is there to help you out. I, I know there are tough times, and there's going to be more tough times ahead of us. Brenda. So Brenda got furloughed yesterday. Sorry to hear that. UI meeting in 45 minutes. Sorry to hear that. Never like to hear anything like that. And I know that there's a lot of people that are going through that. Hopefully, between unemployment or whatever might be going on, you can withstand it for however long you need to and get back on your feet. Sorry to hear that. There's one thing, there's something that in my book, the What the Brain Wants book, that they brought up The Secret, and this whole idea of vibrations and telling the universe what you want, and when you tell the universe what you want, it'll come to you, and all that other stuff. And I think, I don't go that woo woo, right? Like I tried to watch the TV show The Secret, I tried to read the book, and I can't go that woo woo. I tried to go through Bob Proctor's courses, and I can't go that woo woo. But what I think happens, right? I'm not sure I buy into the vibrational whatever. But what I think happens is that the more you focus on what you want and the clearer you are, the more your brain moves in that direction to make it happen. And, I think that in all of this, it, like right now especially, if you're focused on the negative, if you're focused on the worst part of it, you're going to probably experience more anxiety, more fright, and you're gonna just be in this place that might not be healthy. Some of it, I mean, look, some people are really scared. Somebody like Brenda, who is lost their job, or at least had it put on hold. There's real situations that you have to worry about there. A lot of people are not going through that, and so we, like, if you're not in that position where you can tune out some of the negativity and you can focus on the opportunity for growth, for learning, and whatever, and you can keep your brain focused on that, the healthier you can be. And even if you are experiencing some of this bad stuff, it's, again, our experiences are determined, like it's how we choose to go through this experience. So, in Brenda's case, man, I'm not in that position, so I can't quite accurately empathize with it. I'm sorry. I know I've had businesses, I've been in business where, like, the next month I didn't know how I was paying the bills. And the only way I could get out of it, the only way we did get out of it, was try to find any opportunity we could. So at that point in time, I might have looked around and said, you know what? I can't do anything. Time to fold up and go home. I never had that mentality. My mentality, when we were broke, in debt, couldn't pay our bills, we're barely paying our rent on a small little 600 square foot store we had. My reaction was to do more, was to make more phone calls, call customers, call potential customers, call up people we haven't seen in a while, try to make more happen. And that eventually, it didn't solve the immediate problem. Like, I had to find creative ways to solve the immediate problem. It did lead to a lot more clients, down the road. It might have taken a couple of months, but we ended up digging out of that, and never would have if I had not started looking for the opportunities. And so, we get into the woo-woo vibrational stuff. Like, I like the example they use in the book is that, like, a person wants a BMW convertible. So they focus on vibes. They want a BMW. They're telling the universe, I want a BMW convertible. And then they start seeing BMW convertibles all over the road. And they're like, oh, it must be bringing BMWs closer to me. And then they find a way to afford a BMW convertible. And they say, well, the vibes are what got it to me. And that's not the case. You start noticing the BMW convertibles because it's your reticular activating system in the brain. It's like somebody tells you, don't look for yellow cars, and all of a sudden you look for yellow cars everywhere. It's just your brain focusing on that and picking it out of the environment. And it's how the brain notices coincidences and all sorts of weird things. But what's really going on from that, like that person that finally gets that BMW convertible, is that they start aligning their actions with getting that BMW convertible. Vision boards, you might put a house on your vision board, you might put a promotion, you might put a bank account balance, whatever that might be. And it's not that the universe is giving it to you, it's that you start changing little things about your life to make it happen. For the BMW convertible example, you might start, like if you go out 3 nights a week for dinner, which is hard to believe now, but if you go out 3 nights a week for dinner, maybe you bring it down to 2, and you save yourself $20 to $50 each week in dining out. So that's money that goes back into your bank, and that's money that can go toward a car payment or a car down payment, right? And so that BMW convertible gets a little bit more realistic. Or maybe you're offered a little bit of overtime at work, and you take overtime thinking, you know what, that would be good to put towards my BMW convertible, right? And so you start doing things. You start cutting costs in small little places that adds up. You maybe start bringing in a little bit more income in little places, and that starts to add up. All of a sudden, you can afford a BMW convertible where you normally couldn't. But you've changed your actions to get that BMW convertible. The universe didn't hand it to you. The vibrations didn't wobble that BMW into your driveway, right? You created it by changing your actions. And that's what we're talking about with Define My Day, right? We're not like, you're not writing down things as a pie in the sky, like, I would love to get a new house, right? And you're just writing that down every day as a priority and then not taking action to get it, or writing it down every day as a goal and not taking action to get it. You're changing your actions to get it. You're saying, I'm not going to do this because it takes my attention away from getting a new house. You're saying, I am going to do this because it brings in more revenue or more income so that I can pay for a new house. Even if it's, I want a promotion. The universe isn't going to vibrate a promotion into your life. You get a promotion because you change the way you act. You start sucking up to your boss a little bit. You start taking on projects. You start saying no to going out late at night so you can come in fresh to work, right? You start making little changes and all of a sudden they add up to you getting a promotion, you know? So that's where this whole, being intentional with Define My Day is. We're not changing vibrations. We are bringing things into our lives that we want by changing our actions. And all of the little things add up to a bigger thing. And it doesn't matter what it is. BMW, promotion, house, a relationship. If you say your relationship, if you want to improve your relationship as a goal, you create milestones every week. I want to go on a date once a week, twice a week. I'm going to wake up and have coffee with my wife every day. We're going to sit down after dinner and talk or play a game or whatever. We're going to get down in the sheets a couple times a week. Like whatever that is, you're going to do whatever you believe is the right recipe for a good relationship. Maybe you read more books. Maybe you learn what makes a good relationship, right? And by doing those things, again, not vibrating it into your life, it's happening because you're changing the way you're behaving. You're aligning your actions with what you want. And that's how time blocking helps, right? Time blocking, an outside observer could say, time blocking, you're being an anal retentive idiot, right? Or time blocking changes the way you behave so that you focus on the thing that you need to do right now and you handle your time in a more efficient manner, including resting, including screwing around watching TV, or including taking a bike ride. You're practicing being more focused on what you're doing right now rather than being completely scatterbrained. And again, we're not vibrating things into life. We are creating the life we want intentionally. So, with people that are in a terrible position right now, you're worried about your health, you're worried about your job, you're worried about your income. Now, like you can say that it's negative vibrations or positive vibrations, but what it is are patterns of behavior. Are we looking for opportunities, or are we just trying to avoid getting buried? Or are we actually burying ourselves, right? Like, so there's a spectrum, broad spectrum of behaviors that could be happening right now. And the more you can bring yourself to positive behaviors, the healthier you can be at the end of this. And no matter what the end result is, you're going to land on some spectrum of the end result. So you can either be the best of a worse situation, or the worst of a worse situation, or the best of a best situation, or the worst of a best situation, right? So like say everything works out, say like you get lucky and everything works out roses, but you didn't really act in a way that was the best that you could be, the most efficient, or the most positive, or however you want to describe it, right? You didn't take advantage of the opportunities you had. So the best situation happened for you, but you got limited results because you didn't behave in a way that helped you take advantage of those opportunities. On the flip side, say everything went against you, right? Say the situation happened terribly, right? Everything went against you. In your behavior, if you don't take advantage of what's given you, then you end up in the worst of the worst situation. Or if you just make the best of it, if you take advantage of what you can control, and you end up in the best of a worse situation, there's a gulf right there, right? There's a difference, and you can be anywhere along that spectrum. I would choose to be up here, where things are just a bit better rather than totally terrible. Our behavior determines that. Our daily behavior determines that. I've been absolutely broke, underwater, in debt. I've been there. I've been fired. I've been a terrible student. I've been a terrible husband, a terrible father. I've been all of those things. I still might be, but in some people's opinion, right? But the difference being that in each one of those situations, I always had the thought, I can do better. I can fix this. And that's the one key thought. The one thing that always got me to try to change something. Even if I didn't agree with it, I always thought, I can do better. There's something I'm missing here. And if you look at the most successful people, whether you're talking about Warren Buffett or whoever, they find a way to take advantage of bad situations. They find a way, like the best business owners find a way to adapt and overcome a situation. To bring in a military term, adapt and overcome, right? Um, and so Jenny says, what you think expands. It's more about the feeling that you want. Right. And so that's exactly it. Is it, if you're always focused on the worst case scenarios, it's almost like you're bringing them about. And again, it's not a vibrational thing. It's just that's kind of like you act in accordance with how you're thinking. And so if you can start turning your thoughts towards opportunities, you start seeking out those opportunities and you look to take advantage of them. Yeah, that's very nice. Brenda's van is paid off next month. You like the look without a hat? My hair is getting unruly, man. I'm gonna look like a hippie soon. Um, Brenda's plan is to get my house decluttered in May. I've already been working every day on some little project. That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's like right now. I mean, we're living amongst boxes because we're still waiting to move, right? Um, and I can tell you, like, I am super high on decluttering as soon as I get the opportunity. I can't wait to have space where I'm not climbing over stuff. That environment, like cleaning your environment, having an organized environment, does so much for your mindset. Absolutely. Um, so the last thing I wanted to talk about today was an article that popped up for me from Tim Ferriss. He wrote the 4 Hour Work Week, and he kind of got famous for that. But he's a pretty good motivational type guru. And what he did here was he wrote about a not to do list. So, and he found it more effective than to do lists for upgrading performance. And so he says the reason is simple: what you don't do determines what you can do. We talked about this before, right? Saying no. When you say no to something, or when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to an infinite number of things in the future. So you want to try to say no to as much as possible if it doesn't align with where you want to go. So here he comes up with 9 things that you do not want to do. Number 1, do not answer calls from unrecognized phone numbers. So feel free to surprise others, but don't be surprised. It just results in unwanted interruption and poor negotiating position. Let it go to voicemail and consider using a service like Grand Central. You can listen to people leaving voicemail, or Simul Scribe, which is receive voicemails as email. I love visual voicemail. I don't answer calls from numbers I don't know. And in fact, I have an AT&T app that tries to declutter spam calls, but the iPhone has a setting that if you don't know the number, if it's not in your phone, it goes straight to voicemail. It's incredibly effective. Like, I don't know how many times I get calls from people I don't know, and it can end up being a bad habit sometimes because sometimes you need to get a phone call from somebody and you don't realize it. Like, my kids' schools have called before from a number that wasn't programmed into my phone, and then I missed a call from the school, or like a car dealership, or if my car was getting fixed, or even as we were trying to get like mortgage, like those numbers go to voicemail, and then I'm like, I missed that. So there's times, but for the most part, as a rule, I don't answer phone calls from numbers I don't know. Okay, number 2. Do not email first thing in the morning or last thing at night. The former scrambles your priorities and plans for the day, and the latter just gives you insomnia. Email can wait until 10 a.m. after you've completed at least one of your critical to-do items. So he's talking about priorities right there, right? It's a bad habit to get into email as soon as you wake up, because then you're just saying, I want to respond to other people, rather than being intentional about my day. Now look, I understand if you work for somebody, if you have a boss that emails you things during the day, I get it. There are ways to manage that and figuring out a solution so that you're not immediately at somebody else's whims. The better you can do that, the better your life will end up being. And also, I purposefully do not read emails or Facebook comments after a certain time. If I don't have time to act like properly address something without taking away my sleep, I won't invite it into my life. You know? So at 7 o'clock, yeah, I'll check emails, I'll check Facebook comments because I can respond without changing my bedtime. But at 9:45, if I get a bad email or a bad comment or something I have to respond to, I don't want to be up until 11 o'clock dealing with that. So I do my best to try to avoid it. 3. Do not agree to meetings or calls with no clear agenda or end time. If the desired outcome is defined clearly with a stated objective and agenda listing topics and questions to cover, no meeting or call should last more than 30 minutes. And I know we all have people that like to hold an hour-long meeting or longer. Request them in advance so you can best prepare and make good use of the time together. I, as a business that would frequently meet with other business owners, I could tell you that there were some businesses you would walk in with an agenda and nobody would ever hold on to the agenda. They'd start talking about tangents and they'd start going off on, on random topics, right? Or they'd start talking about random topics and going off on tangents, and then nothing would get accomplished, and everybody would be by mid-meeting looking around, banging their pen on the table, thinking about everything else they got to do because they couldn't stay on topic. You have to, in any meeting, try to steer the group to a topic and resolution. And pre planning that is the best way to do it. And trying to avoid getting into those meetings where, like, nothing is going to get accomplished. Like, your time's more valuable than that. Time blocking, right? If we know how valuable our time is, we don't agree to crap like this. All right, number 4, going right into it. Don't let people ramble. Forget how's it going when someone calls you. Stick with what's up or I'm in the middle of something, but what's going on. A big part of GTD is GTP, getting to the point. So get to the point. Sometimes it's good for small talk, right? Like sometimes we want to small talk with our friends, but like a lot of people want to warm things up and like small talk before getting to the point of like a busy person just needs the information they need. They need to react in whichever way they need to handle it, and then they need to move forward, right? So get to the point. Do not check email constantly, batch and check at set times only. This is huge. Like, I was huge in thinking that I needed to reply to emails constantly, like as they came in. And when I stopped doing that a couple of years ago, because I read something similar to this, my clients got pissed that I wasn't responding to them within like 10 minutes or a half an hour or an hour. But the conversation had to be, I'm working, right? I'm working for you. And if I'm going to work for you, I need to do the big work, right? Now, we have a help desk. So the help desk is responsible for responding immediately, right? So if you have an immediate need, contact the help desk. But for me to ask me like whatever pops into somebody's mind, I can't reply back immediately. Like I can't wait for those emails to come in. I need to get into the deep thoughtful work that I need to get into, and then I need to check emails, reply as needed, and then get back to work. That's the only way I'm going to move myself, my business, my life forward. Number 6, do not over communicate with low profit, high maintenance customers. There is no sure path to success, but the surest path to failure is trying to please everyone. Do an 80-20 analysis of your customer base in 2 ways. Which 20% are producing 80% of my profit, and which 20% are consuming 80% of my time? Then put the loudest and least productive on autopilot by citing a change in company policies. Send them an email with new rules as bullet points, number of permissible phone calls, email response time, minimum orders, etc. Offer to point them to another provider if they can't conform to the new policies. It sounds heartless, right? And everybody wants to feel that they are important, regardless of how much they spend and how much value they offer and that sort of thing. But in my experience on the IT side of the world, um, the customers that paid us the least amount of money, the people that wanted a deal, were always the ones that had the most problems and yelled and screamed the most and would not follow the recipe for success that we laid out for them. So it was always the customers that paid us the absolute most, sometimes 3 or 4 times what somebody else was paying us. And they would listen to everything we have to say, follow our advice, follow our structure, email the help desk or call the help desk when needed. They would follow our plan and they would get the best results from us, while the people that were paying us the least amount would never adhere to our policies and then cost us more and more time. And the way our structure is in our IT business is that people pay a set amount per month and then they get all of our resources as much needed to take care of their problems or avoid problems is the biggest thing. And so, it was like, we quickly figured out that, which customers, based on how many phone calls and how many tickets they sent in, compared to what they were spending, we could see our profitability per customer. And there were a lot of customers that we were happy to say, look, I understand you're not happy. We'll help you find some other place. If you want to find another vendor, we're happy to help you do that. Because although it was nice to be making money from them, um, when you look at how much it was costing us to service them, it was actually making us less profitable. So, that's when we can look at that, in a lot of ways. Nobody wants to put value on relationships or value, like nobody wants to put a dollar amount on the people around them. It seems very superficial, but you have friends in your life. If you want to bring this personal, you have friends in your life that suck time from you, right? They're constantly bringing you their problems. They're constantly bringing you, you know, all of these things that take from you. Meanwhile, you have a friend out there that's always there for you, right? That's offering you guidance and positive support and love, unconditional love and friendship, right? But what happens is we get caught where we give the squeaky wheel 80% of our time, right? Where we're always, because this person's the loudest, we give them all the time rather than nurturing the one that's requesting 20% of our time, but giving us much more value in that unconditional friendship, love, and everything else, right? So trying to take this from a dollar sign business perspective to where we are, look around you and who is constantly squeaking and taking 80% of your time, but not giving you the value in return. Relationships are transactional. We don't like to say that, but they are. Relationships are transactional. It's a give and take. We are in relationships because we're getting something back. We're in relationships, we're giving something because we get something back, whether it's feeling good or it's support or whatever, right? And so when you're looking around at the relationships you have with people, who's taking more than they're giving? Who's draining you more than they're helping you? And sometimes there's seasons in this. Sometimes people are in need, like right now. That's different. But there are people that are continuously taking without offering much in return or an equal value in return. And although it can seem superficial, it's incredibly important when we're dealing with where we spend our time. Do not work more to fix overwhelm. Prioritize. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Have we heard this before? Do not work more to fix overwhelm. Prioritize. Oh my goodness. If you don't prioritize, everything seems urgent and important. If you define the single most important task for each day, almost nothing seems urgent or important. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of letting little bad things happen, like return a phone call late and apologize, or pay a small late fee, or lose an unreasonable customer, to get the big important things done. The answer to overwhelm is not spinning more plates or doing more. It's defining the few things that can really fundamentally change your business and life. What? Oh, he's even using our words. It's defining the few things that can really fundamentally change your business and life. He is practically selling define my day here. He's not. He's not in reality, but he's selling the philosophy. We need to prioritize, not create a to-do list of 20 things and try to get it all done. It's picking the 1 to 3 things at most that have to get done today that move us forward to the place we want to be in our careers, our businesses, and our lives. Prioritize. You have to figure that out. And then prioritize it on your schedule by saying, this is the most important thing I need to do today, and I am going to block it in as early as possible and tell everybody else to leave me the heck alone until I finish it. That's a hard conversation to have, but it is absolutely necessary if you want to move forward. Now, this one I can't get on board with, but good luck trying. Do not carry a cell phone or Crackberry 24/7. Take at least one day off of digital leashes per week. Turn them off, or better still, leave them in the garage or in the car. I do this on at least Saturday, and I recommend you leave the phone at home if you want to go out for dinner. So what if you return a phone call an hour later or the next morning? As one reader put it to a miffed coworker who worked 24/7 and expected the same, I'm not the president of the United States. No one should need me at 8 p.m. at night. Okay, you didn't get a hold of me, but what bad happened? The answer, nothing. I agree with it. And I think I will always carry my cell phone, because of kids and phone calls from Lynn and whatever. But I also set some pretty good boundaries where I don't respond to people because for the most part, there's no emergency happening at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. I don't need to respond. So number 9, do not expect work to fill a void that non-work relationships and activities should. Now, he created this paragraph gigantic, so I'm assuming he thinks this is incredibly important. Work is not all of life. Your coworkers shouldn't be your only friends. Schedule life and defend it just as you would in an important business meeting. Never tell yourself, I'll just get it done this weekend. Review Parkinson's Law in the 4-hour work week and force yourself to cram within tight hours so your per-hour productivity doesn't fall through the floor. Focus, get the critical few done, and get out. Emailing all weekend is no way to spend the little time you have on this planet. Does that sound like time blocking in there? Right? So schedule it within tight hours, get it done. Get it done. Focus on that thing that you need to get done and get it done. Don't let your mind wander. Don't let your activity wander. Get it done. Now, also, schedule life and defend it as you would an important business meeting. So time block that bike ride. Time block your TV. Time block whatever. And treat it as if you're working almost, right? I am going at bike riding like I've never gone before, and I am not going to let other things encroach on this time, right? So if you block out going out with my wife or going out with my husband, then that's all you should be doing. You are scheduled to do that, and that is it, right? Let's check out what we got going on here. Your beliefs, Marcia says, your beliefs drive your behavior. What you truly believe, you will act on, and that will break through almost any barrier. It's pretty cool, right? It's true. And it's not, you're not talking about being like superhuman, but we have more power than we think we do. So Stacy says there's a problem that most people have with trying to get something in life like the BMW is that they don't ask for enough or think into being big enough. Like you can get the car, but did you plan it into being in totality? Like, can you afford insurance, maintenance? I see people ask for the house, win house, but not be able to afford the taxes. The thought and action is the vibration. It's not neuroscience. There's a specific voltage and frequency that the brain produces to motivate and move the rest of you to make it happen. The car thing, funny thing happened. I kept asking the universe for a new car. I wanted a new car. The action I took was to only look at used cars. A fluke happened at dealership, and I got a new car even though I didn't look at any new cars. I will take it gratefully, even if my behavior didn't match what I asked for. Yeah, and sometimes you luck into good things. You mentioned something that I want to circle back to. I'm not certain. I had a thought and I lost it as I was reading through there. But yeah, love the tips, right? They're pretty good. So Sharon, this was, and I'll post the link right now. This was Tim Ferriss's. Oh, I can't post the link doing this. I'll have to post it later. This is Tim Ferriss's article. The not to-do list, 9 habits to stop now. So I found this on his blog. So Unknown, who's in the user group, says, okay, the fact that he said crackberry means he said this at least a few years ago. When was the last time anybody had a BlackBerry? Unfortunately, much more business is being transacted on a smartphone than back when the BlackBerries, but I get the point nonetheless. Yeah, I don't think you can disqualify this, and it was posted in 2007, but it doesn't disqualify what he's saying, because the fact remains you still need to segment away from that. You don't need to be doing business at 8 p.m. unless there's a deadline. We need to regain our focus. The brain hasn't changed. Multitasking is not good for us. And pulling our attention away from the thing we should be doing right now constantly is only training us to be less efficient. Task switching, like people think multitasking, it's not true. It doesn't happen. It's actually fast task switching. So you're focusing on one thing, you hear a ding, you check your phone or you get a phone call, you look at it real quick and then get back to work. You're losing focus. And we've talked in the past about how long it takes. It takes up to 20 minutes or more to get back into deep focus on a task. You can't bring your attention here and then come back here efficiently. You're just training your brain to not get into deep thought. You're not thinking efficiently. You're not working efficiently. And it causes you to burn more energy and get less, a lesser result. So it's an old post, but it's all still very relative. It's all very useful now. All right, so that's it. So I only saw one poem, so I'm going to have to look and see who wrote the roses are red, violets are blue. Define my day is the best to move forward with you. I don't know who that was. I'm going to have to go in the user group and see who wrote that, but you apparently won the free Define My Day book. Thank you for playing. And you have to let me know. Send us a private message and send me what color you want, and we'll get that out to you. And Luann, if you're watching, let's make sure we get that out to that person. Real quick, we're going to close it out with Angel. I would agree that deadlines should not require working at 8 p.m. if that's not your normal schedule, except maybe during a pandemic. Yeah, we have to take it as it comes, right? We have to be flexible depending on the situation. But even during the pandemic, like say you allow for that to happen, then you also have to schedule when you're going to chill out for a little while. Maybe it's the next morning, maybe it's on a Saturday. Like we got to segment that time. We got to say, look, I'm off the clock. All right, I'll close it out after these next two. Robin says, I don't understand what's going on with the unknown known thing when I click on the comments. That was me, the poem in the BlackBerry. Robin, so if you are in the user group, since it's private, won't show the person's name on this broadcast. It's a new software we're using so that we can broadcast publicly and in the user group at the same time. I can see all of the comments, but I can't see the names of the people. It hides the names of the people in the user group. It's sort of a privacy thing, which I actually kind of like, so that's why. So Robin, you won a Define My Day. Thank you for playing. Thanks for the poem. And then lastly here, Stacy, can you help on time blocking? My ADHD makes it really hard to change gears. I don't know how to explain it more than we did yesterday or today. There is an article we posted an article on our blog, but there are some articles out there if you want to go deeper into time blocking. Basically, you just want to practice focusing on one thing. And if you have ADHD, you probably have to take it into smaller chunks. Maybe you do a 10-minute time block or a 15-minute time block. But the purpose of it is to practice that deep focus. And if you have ADHD, it's probably, if you want to compare it to muscles or whatever, it's it's a smaller muscle that needs to be worked on, right? So adjust it for you. I look at it like, so we want to do more with our kids after dinner. So, we're slow. Like, I'm not going to say, okay, for 2 hours after dinner, we're all going to hang out together and do something, right? We're going to take it in smaller steps. We'll start with 30 minutes of playing Uno. We'll bring it up to 45 minutes and we'll grow it until it gets to a point that we're happy with. And in this case, with me, one of the things I hate doing is washing the dishes. So I would start by saying, look, I'll wash the dishes for 10 minutes. And then as time went on, I started doing it for 15 minutes and then 20 and then until it was finished, right? And so I would do the same with time blocking. If you know your limit is 20 minutes, then schedule it for 20 minutes. And then as time goes on, you schedule 25 minutes of deep thought or deep focus into whatever you're doing. You schedule a half an hour to get to the point where you're probably at 45 minutes or an hour, at which point most people can't go much further than that without starting to lose focus. So you give yourself a 15-minute break and then get back to work. Surprise you with the color? Okay. Hey, no problem. I think we're probably going to send you red because that was kind of a love post. So we're going to send you red, I think. So Luann, if you're watching, send Robin Glover a red one. And if you're not watching, I'll make sure I follow up with you. The challenge with ADHD is microfocusing sometimes. Switching gears can be rough because they are so focused on something. Yeah, I got you. I can focus like crazy for one thing for hours on end, but then when it's time to shift, it's really hard to do. Then I need to get settled and focused again. Shorter blocks are harder. So if that's the case, then you just adjust it that way, right? So you go focused, intense on one thing, and then practice taking a breather. It's the same thing. You're just flipping it around the other way. All right, everybody. Very good. So we're at the end of the line. We're at 11 o'clock. Nobody's knocked on my door, but we're going to get out there and see what's going on. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for another edition of Define My Day. Good morning. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for all the good comments, and I will see you again. Keep moving forward.